artistic directors of the Barrow Group. And for those of you who don't know the Barrow Group is a nonprofit theater company and training program which works with a very specific aesthetic of helping actors get their acting looser, more spontaneous, more like you're watching real people in real situations. So when an audience member can come see a show at the Barrow Group, they can come in and have a deeper and richer experience. And when they leave the theater, they can go out and do, great things. So we teach classes, we develop work, we do plays, but we are here today for our artist conversation, and it is my divine pleasure to welcome the magnificent Christine Toy Johnson, who is, this woman does everything. She is an award-winning actor, playwright, singer, filmmaker, lyricist, and she is an advocate for inclusion. And hi, how you doing? And so she is someone that does it all. She's worked in, she just was in the national tour of Come From Away, playing Diane. She was in this show called Iron Fist, has done the Law and Orders, Miss Maisel, Madam Secretary, the list goes on and on. So, so we are just so excited to have you here today, Christine, and she's a dear friend of mine and lives next door to me here in Castle Village. And we are also thrilled that she's a member of our Fab Women at TBG, and Fab Women is a branch of the Barrow Group which creates plays for women, by women, and about women. And we did this beautiful reading of, well, we've done lots of readings of Christine's, but the beautiful Secret Wisdom of Trees with Lynn Cohen, we did that years ago. So, so Christine, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I just love you so much. I'm so happy to see you, even through my computer screen.
Oh, so, one of the first questions I throw out to our artists that do these conversations, what, in this time of COVID here, how have you kept yourself inspired during this time?
It's so interesting because I know we all have had a different response and a different journey through this time. It's very focused, solitary time in a way, even though we're not all living alone, but there is a sense of that space that you create for yourself to cope. And for me, I just feel very fortunate for a lot of reasons, but one of them is that I am a writer, and I have found that keeping creative and writing fiction has kept me sane. And so I actually haven't needed to seek inspiration. I have been inspired, and so I recognize that that's a very, very fortunate thing. And I don't know if part of it is a response to changing the narrative, a form of escapism, perhaps, to write a different world. I don't know if that's part of it. I think it certainly is part of it. I don't know if it's all of it. I mean, I'm not living in La La Land, not acknowledging the realities that we're facing, but I just try to stay open to the stories that come into my head and the characters that I want to give voice to, and it's been a very fruitful time in that way.
Yes, I mean, well, you inspire so many people, and just even your artistic discipline. You have such a strong discipline of, you said, writing, and so can you talk about your discipline a little bit?
Well, I am a very early morning person, which is not really that great when you're doing a show. As you mentioned, I've spent, except for the past 6 months, of course, in shutdown, I've been on the national tour of Come From Away for 18 months. So, when you realize that you need to be in your optimal energy 12 hours after you've gotten up. It makes you think, maybe I better rethink my schedule. But anyway, my natural body clock is to wake up super early, ranging depending on when I go to sleep from 5 a.m. to, if I sleep late, it's like 7:30. That's like, oh, I have really just been a slug and slept in. But I love the early morning hours, and my brain is the most sort of alive and ready to create at that time. So I generally get up and check my email and do a little social media, catch up with, make sure the world is not completely on fire, which although sadly it has been a lot lately. And then I think about, well, before I've gotten up, I usually think, what is it that I want to work on today? And that's always a very exciting question, because the answer is, oh, what do you want to work on today? So I have several different writing projects that I'm involved with right now at various different stages. And so I will write or whatever, and that means not only literally writing dialogue, but also doing research or thinking about where I want certain characters to go, or thinking about storylines that I want to incorporate into projects. So I do that really for the morning, unless I have, like we all have, a million meetings on Zoom. But I do dedicate a portion of my day, and generally in the morning hours when I'm the most fresh to any writing project I have.
Right. So you just are very dedicated about, carving out that time for yourself.
Yeah.
Creative time. And I know I'm always like saying, like, creative people need to be creative just to keep that creative energy moving forward. And here you're someone that does it all. I mean, you really, as I said, you're a writer, you're a major singer, you made that beautiful film about Mount Osaka, just incredible. So out of all of the disciplines here, the artistic disciplines, is there one that you enjoy the most, or are they equally, do they equally feed your creative spirit?
I feel like they're all part of the equation that is my creative being. That sounds very Hallmark, doesn't it?
No,
but they all feed each other, and they all help each other. So for example, also, in this practice of just staying in shape, because we never know when we're going to get to go back to do certain things that we used to do. But also I have been involved in singing for different people's videos. And I wrote a song for the Broadway for Biden group and I was singing as part of that too. So I have to keep in shape vocally. So I make sure that I'm still doing that, and I'm meditating and I'm stretching. And also I would like to be able to fit into my costume someday when we go back. So I'm mindful of that.
Right. 19.
But I'm happy to say that I've done really well. A lot of because, and I don't think I'm even answering your question, Lee. I'm sorry.
No, you did answer it, because I say the same thing. Like, I think it's that creative energy. It really is, no matter what discipline you're putting into, that energy into, just even if it's directing something or writing a monologue or writing a play or practicing your voice or learning monologues or yoga, whatever that is. It's just, you keep sharpening your discipline, artistic.
I think it's also about keeping your vision moving forward. So not ignoring the past or the present, obviously, and that's another thing. That's another thing about staying in the present, and the trick of that now. The trick of being okay, the equanimity, staying present and being okay with this moment, not fearing the future, but also looking forward so that that this too shall pass. We will literally get through this together. And hopefully all the seeds that are being planted now will flower in the future in whatever time they need to take.
Right. And I loved what you said, just being clear to your vision.
Mm-hmm.
So as just as a creative, how would you describe what your vision is for your artistry?
So there are a couple of things that I find that recur in my writing. It's so funny because I was just in this Twitter feed of people who are saying these are 3 recurring things in my plays, and then I got tagged, and so I'm reading all of these people's clever things. But really, for me, so these 3 things are recurring. Seriously, magical realism.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Unapologetic and unbridled joy at some point,
Mm-hmm.
and 2nd to 6th generation Asian American characters over 40. so that's all to say that I also think that I don't set out to do this. I think it just sort of comes through. I tend to be compelled to write about belonging and the yearning to belong.
Right.
And and like many other writers of color who started writing, I'm aware of writing people who look like me and people who might have a shared experience with me into the narrative of American storytelling, because I have not seen a lot of it.
Right.
So again, it's not necessarily like I'm going to sit down and write a play about XYZ.
Mm-hmm.
It's being open to the inspiration that comes from just being a person who cares about the things that I just mentioned. Does that make sense?
Right. Oh, yes. Oh, totally. That makes sense. And so also your work as an artist, you've been an advocate for inclusion. Can you talk about your work about that and your
Sure.
and how you do that?
Yeah.
That was 3 questions.
Yeah, it's been a long road. You know, against all odds, I always say this. My career is a miracle. I think it's a miracle. Against all odds, well, you are. Against all odds, I have been making my living in the entertainment industry for my entire adult life. Mm-hmm. So I grew up in the suburbs of New York City. I was a child model at 4, and then I took a break and went to elementary school and stuff. And when I graduated from high school, I got my first equity show. So I joined Equity the summer I graduated from high school. I went to college. I worked in between in the summers, and I was able to come into the city and take classes. I was in the Circle in the Square acting program when I was 13 during a summer, and then I was a dancer too, so I would come in and take 3 classes a day, and then get back on the train. Anyway, see, now I forgot the original question. Oh, okay. So what I think is really interesting about my journey is that at the time, there were very few role models for me to see in theater, film, and television. And yet it did not deter me from knowing that I wanted to do it. Mm-hmm. So I really attribute that to my parents and the supportive way they always, they raised me, and they always have been, really being raised with the feeling that I really could do anything. Yeah. I just had to sort of work hard enough, but and so not without toil and not without earning it, but that I could do anything.
Right.
So I grew up going to see Broadway shows because I was an hour away on the train, and my mom and I would come into the city and we would go see shows. And then there was a time when standing room was only, at the time, back in the 1800s, standing room was like $5. And so I could see all these Broadway shows. And it didn't really occur to me that I couldn't do something because I didn't look like anybody on the stage until I actually got into the business. So my point of entry was, this won't be very surprising, was playing Leot in South Pacific. So which I did about 3 times in my early years. And as time went on, I started to see what was the truth, that I didn't really fit into people's ideas of what someone who was Asian American should look like. I'm 5'5", and I'm not frail, or, you know, I'm curvy, all these different things. But at a certain point, and this was so after there had been a lot of discussion, the discussion started really coming to light about what I don't like to call non-traditional casting, because I feel like it suggests that it's not normal, and that we're not normal when we're cast that way. I like to say diverse and inclusive casting now. But when those conversations were happening, I happened to get an opportunity to play Julie Jordan in a production of Carousel at the Hangar Theater. And I remember when it was a brand new agent that called me, and that I was working with, and called me and said I had an audition. And I remember at this time saying, wait, they're actually going to see me for this? I have an audition? And they said, yes. And so I had, of course I knew Carousel, but I was reading the script again. I thought, this, out of all the Rodgers and Hammerstein, I'm a big Golden Age musical fan. This is so much more sort of the meaty kind of role that I want to play, more than, say, like Top Tim and The King and I, which is what I had been seen for before, or Leot in South Pacific. And I remember distinctly going to these auditions and feeling a little ashamed that I was there, because I made it up that the other women there would be looking at me saying, what are you doing here? Why would you be here?
Right.
So anyway, I got the part, and nobody died. And it inspired me. This, I know, is such a long story, Lee.
No. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
It inspired me to talk about the experience, because it was a positive result of the advocacy that had been started by the people before me.
Right.
And so as I started talking about it, and I was finding my advocacy voice really through this, I became involved at roughly around the same time. I ran for the elected leadership of Actors Equity, and I got elected in 1992.
Right. So
only
board for
28 years. 28 years. I just recently retired. Retired. It's a volunteer position, but I retired from it in June of this year. And through my time there, I was before the Equal Employment Opportunity Committee has been a national committee for the past 6 years. So before that, there were different regional ones. So I was co-chair of the Eastern Regional Equal Employment Opportunity Committee from 1998 until 6 years ago. And then I became the chair of the National Committee whenever that was. So through that, and then also I'm part of the elected leadership of the Dramatists Guild of America, representing playwrights, librettists, lyricists, and composers. I created the Guild's first Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Committee, and became the chair of that.
Right.
And so,
so that's like 4 boards, right? You sit on about 4 different boards.
Yeah, well, because I was on the board of the Alliance for Inclusion in the Arts before that disbanded. I think I did that for about 15 years, and so I just, I I like to join groups that will have me, and it's just become so important to me because to speak in a bridge building positive way about the power of the theater and the media, the unique power really of the media to shift perceptions of who we are, what we can do, not only for ourselves, but for each other.
Mhm.
And so we have this beautiful opportunity to tell these stories that I believe this so much. Otherwise, I wouldn't have, you know, been volunteering my time for all these years, banging my head against the wall about it. But I just feel like so much that is broken in our world is based in fear
Mhm.
of someone that's not like you.
Right, right.
And not you, Lee, but
No,
you
but I
in
totally
general.
agree with that because we've had these conversations
Hmm.
before. So I totally agree with that.
So
Right.
there's this fear-based prejudice, literally prejudging, that doesn't necessarily come from, I mean, I actually don't think it comes at all from knowledge of another person's story, but an assumption that there's something threatening.
Hmm.
And so we as storytellers have an opportunity to uh, open the window for people on stories that they would not know otherwise,
Hmm.
people that they would not meet otherwise,
Hmm.
and points of view and humanity and compassion and things that are essential to human life, right?
Right, right. Like we've talked about so many times,
Yeah,
art really has the ability to heal people, to
absolutely.
heal communities, that you might see something or hear something that changes that perception, as you were saying, that will change people's lives.
Well, and
And
it's our job to create these worlds of empathy.
right,
So, you might see a story and you might not agree with how a character would act or something, but you might gain an understanding about someone like that
right,
shifts how you look at the world.
right, right. Yes, that's amazing. So in serving on these four boards for over
I don't
20
know.
years,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And um, um, what I mean, what advice would you kind of give to people to help be more of an advocate for diversity and inclusion and I know we've talked about keeping communication open, but how
Hmm.
are we able to even, oh, just even maybe specific tools to help that? Or like, what can we do now? So if you're kind of feeling stuck now, a little helpless, a little, which you and I don't really feel that, but I mean, it's how are we able to kind of bridge these communications with others, or what are some tools that we can do to be proactive to help this?
That's a really big question, but I think it's really important. It is, but it's really important. If I knew the answer, then I would go world peace. Um, but I do think that there
Right,
is,
baby steps, one
yeah,
at
yeah,
a time.
yeah.
It'll
I
come
do think that
eventually.
that it requires us all to stay open and curious and about each other,
Ah,
and try really hard. It's human nature to make assumptions about people.
right,
It's human nature to want to understand someone quickly, so to instantly, judge them, even if you don't mean to. It's so ingrained in us, I think, to want to judge someone or label them or say, I gotcha, I understand who you are, so that you feel comfortable moving on in your life. But I
right.
think that what we're learning from a lot of us who are feeling now more empowered to speak our truths and to really be honest about our experiences, um, and how assumptions have been harmful in perpetuating stereotypes that lead to more prejudgment. I
Mhm,
think that it's really important for us to all stay open to each other.
mhm,
So not to, and that's, I don't mean to simplify it, but I do think it starts with um, not not assuming you know everything about someone or their life or their
right,
circumstances
right.
or the systems of oppression or inequities that um, have brought them to this day.
Mhm, right.
And I think the more we can be open to exploring those human individual layers of life, the more we can be in tune with each other.
Right, right. I love, what you said, just being open, practicing being open because it is a practice, and practice being curious about the other person and situations. And that really is a practice, just staying open and curious about the world, about people.
And respectful of our differences, because we're not all going to be best friends. We're not even all going to get along. But I think if we can figure out a way to really peacefully coexist isn't even strong enough for me. It's really compassionately coexist. Maybe that's
compassion.
more.
So just practicing compassion with every encounter, and empathy with every encounter. And again, as we talked about, it's definitely a practice. Good. So maybe I could ask you another question, and we can kind of throw it out to questions that we have here that people are participating to. So younger artists coming out into the world that are just graduating from colleges, that have worked so hard in their training and done all those plays and musicals in college. What might you tell young people coming out into the world now?
Oh, and I'm sorry that you're graduating this year, because it's not what you thought it was. But I'll tell you this: what I've learned from all these years is that, and I've said this many times, I think, Lee, in your presence too, your dreams coming true often do not look like you thought they would look. And so that's part of this. And I have great faith in young people's resilience and ability to reimagine what their everyday lives and future can be. So I always tell people that there is a temptation, especially when you're in this business, to become have tunnel vision about wanting to get the show, wanting to get the job, and getting ahead. And I think that it's hard to imagine that you could do this, but I think it's really important to create the space in your life for enjoying life and reading books and going to museums when they're open, and taking a walk and being inspired by a flower, just things that will fill you, that are not only about what you think you should be only focused on. On the other hand, of course, there is the time that you need to be able to focus on your craft and keep learning and keep reading plays and keep seeing plays when you can. For now, you can watch a lot of great content on your screen, or your larger screen. But to keep learning, and that word curious keeps coming up, to stay open, to all the kinds of facets in life that can fill you. And I think that's what that makes a better artist too, because you're present in the day-to-day beauty that's around you.
Right. And so, so lovely and so well said. And I think that's kind of, I don't want to say that's easier for us to practice that because we have years behind us. And for these young 20-year-olds that are ready to kind of come out into the world, it's kind of, harder for them to kind of go slow it down. So I was listening to this talk with Andre de Shields. He's such a wonderful speaker. And one of his sentences was, slowly is the fastest way to getting you to where you want to be. Slowly.
That's good.
So, but for people that are anxious and ready to get out, we are in this time of reset and to slowing it down. And as you articulated, sometimes your dream isn't exactly, what we think it's going to be. So,
right.
Yeah.
And also, just the idea of the long haul or the big picture. And this is just a part of that picture.
Right.
And there's so much more to go. Yeah.
And how old were you when you started writing? plays?
I'm not going to tell you that
Oh, you're not gonna tell
because
me that.
I don't
Okay,
tell
but
anyone my age. But I
so many. You've written so many plays. I'm going to ask you that. How many
I
plays?
didn't. Listen. I didn't start writing until 2002 or three,
Oh, really?
and I have. It turns out I'm extremely prolific. Um,
You are.
but it's,
You are.
part of it is I've just got a lot of energy. I've got a lot of energy there. I have a lot to say. And then also, honestly, because I write plays and I write screenplays and I write television and I write musicals. So I write book and lyrics. So I've had a lot of incredible collaborators. And what happens when you're collaborating on a project a lot of times is that you are waiting for the other person to do what they need to do before you come back together. And when I'm in my high octane energy, I I'm waiting for somebody else to get back to me, and so in the meantime I create something else.
Right.
And so that's happened often. There was one summer I think I wrote 3 full-length plays because I was collaborating on something where my partner was busy, and so it took a while for him to get back to me.
Right. I do have one comment here. What I think was a little bit of a comment on what we were talking about the younger people. What do we say to them? And Carrie said, or older folks who gave up, and this time is making us reassess about what fulfills us. And yes, it's a fabulous time to stop and go, what does fulfill us?
Right.
But even Carrie, I'm gonna even like look at those words about, gave up. That, giving up, maybe it just kind of, it switches to something else. That, as I'm always saying, that creative people are always going to be creative. As you articulated, Christine, we're in for the long haul. And just finding different ways to express our creativity. So it doesn't feel so much like you're giving it up. You might have maybe stopped auditioning for plays, but you're making this amazing meal, or you're
Right.
writing your mother an amazing letter. So it's really just rechanneling that creative energy into something else.
Yeah.
So Carrie, I'm just going to maybe rephrase that, that gave up. Hopefully you are finding those things that are fulfilling you and tapping into that creative energy to kind of put it into something else.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's never too late to have a new idea.
Right, to have a new idea, or like you say, kind of, what do you say, revel in the possibility, or
Dwell. Yeah, I love that Emily Dickinson.
dwell in the possibility, discover in the possibility, and every day is an opportunity for us to be creative in some sort of different way. But
and also be kind to yourself. So there are those days where you wake up and think, I can't, and
right.
So that's okay too.
Right, that's okay too. Right, that's okay. So maybe I could throw this out to, I know you and I could just sit here and talk
I know.
hours and hours. Out to any sort of questions that if anybody has a question, there is a raise your hand little thing down at the bottom of the let's see, in the hands, or if someone just wants to kind of chat a question, and I can answer that. So I'm going to wait for those chats or the Facebook Live. I think we have Mr. Barish, Seth Barish, who's trying to help us do the Facebook Live. So if there are any other questions that are, coming in, we can, look at that. So, so we'll wait for some questions. Right. So what else can we, here's a question. That's interesting. What is, now we have lots of questions coming in. So Christine, what is your favorite moment on stage?
I've had so many.
She's had so many.
So a couple come to mind. I am very aware of being present and memorizing those moments of great joy.
So can I ask you, when you say being present,
Hmm.
I let go, so that word present, can you even talk about that a little bit more about what you mean by that, like being present?
So I'll put it to you in this situation. Every night or every matinee, whatever, I go before I go on stage. I hear the crowd. I'm in the wings before at places,
Mm-hmm.
and I hear the crowd,
Mm-hmm.
and I just you can't see me because but I put my hand over my heart,
Your heart. Mm-hmm.
and I feel my heartbeat, and I listen, and I am very aware of everything in that particular moment.
Like before you go on stage.
Yeah, and I have a particular mantra about being grateful for the opportunity to tell the story, to hope to live up to my potential for that performance, be open to receive and open to express.
Uh-huh.
And so those are sort of a setting point.
Mm-hmm.
So what the moments that I was going to mention is, I remember I was in the last Broadway revival of The Music Man in 2001. And
When she was 5.
right, and there was just this moment of right that show. I used to, my friends would say, "You are the happiest person on Broadway." I would literally ride the subway and think and look around and think, who else here is in a Broadway show? Not smugly, but just like filled with joy, right? And so
So beautiful.
but so I do remember this moment during The Music Man where I was waiting for there was it was an old-fashioned kind of set in that there were flies, and we were about to do the Shapoopy number, which was my feature. Just like hearing what was going on, the scene before me, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Also in Come From Away, which has been such a gift and such an amazing experience.
Mm-hmm.
The audience response at the end of the show, because they're only permitted to, by design, they're only permitted to applaud 3 times during the entire show.
Mm-hmm.
The response at the end of the show knocks the wind out of me. It's so incredible.
Aww.
So,
Aww.
those are some.
Yes, well, that's a lot, and I love the. I want to say the moment that you take before you go on to I do the same thing. It's like a little blessing, a little prayer, a little taking it all in before you go out on stage. I think those are very powerful things. But yeah, the music, so fabulous. That's wonderful. I do have another question here. When writing a screenplay, how do you go about getting someone to fund it?
Oh, well, so there are 2 different factors here, really, because there's writing on spec, which I do a lot of. There is only about, I would say, only 10 to 20% of what I've written has been commissioned. So where someone pays me to write the thing. So when you're writing a screenplay, you don't have any idea whether it will be made into a film. In the case of the documentary that I made, that Lee talked about earlier, it was about the first non-Caucasian pro basketball player, a Japanese American guy from the 1947 Knicks. I executive produced it, co-directed it with my husband Bruce. Was in charge of.
Raised the money. So you raised.
I raised the money. I raised the money
to do.
I did the grant writing. So we did that entire film on $53,000 of grant money.
Fantastic.
And so I just learned how to do it, and because I believed in the project so much that it was easy for me to talk to people about it and to write about it.
Right.
So that's not probably a question, the answer that this person really wants, but there's so many different avenues. You could win a competition and somebody notices you. You could produce it on your own. You could raising the money is daunting, and $53,000 sounds like a lot of money, but it's actually not at all when you talk about films.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I have a screenplay right now that has a couple of producers attached to it, um, but you know, it hasn't gone forward yet. But you know, at least there are people who are championing it besides
Right.
myself
Right.
and my collaborator. But I'm sorry, there's not a
Right. And I
clear
think, well, I
answer.
think that you did answer that, that also just even when you do have, you know, a project or a film, I know with the Barrow Group also, the first production we did, we just asked all of our friends and family for money to produce the first show. We still do that, asking our friends and family to,
Mm-hmm.
you know, for the money to, you know, to produce the shows. But I find like sometimes even just that gets the ball rolling. So, you know, a lot of people that do write their films are executive producers on it, or also have the connections to bring the money in. And sometimes you never even know where that is going to come from.
Right.
So the more that you kind of keep putting that out, I want to, you know, I'm going to do this film. You get talking to everybody that you know about the film, and you'll find that people will get on the bandwagon and want to help you.
Yeah, I do want to say that there are many great resources available right now that with classes and panels and things about this. Sundance Collab has free classes you can attend. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact URL of that, but if you Google Sundance Collab, like collaboration,
Right.
there's an organization called Film Fatales. It's run by women filmmakers. They have like $10 panels that have been amazing. Yeah, Sundance Club, right? There are many different organizations that are offering a lot of panels and stuff that would be really useful, that know more than I do.
Right, 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 right. So again, the more that you're meeting people
Mm-hmm.
and your network is
Mm-hmm.
anybody, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
those are really great. And another question: what is the best way to break out into the industry?
Mm-hmm.
You just see us go. That's a beautiful question, and a lot of people, you know, ask that. Christine, do you want to take a start on
Well, I think there there are different levels to, first of all, I know this is going to sound very sort of cliche, but really truly everyone has a different journey. So first step, really try hard not to compare yourself to anybody else, because it's not helpful. And so that's like your first self-care move, right? I think that it's good to get a sense of where you think you fit in the industry, what kinds of roles you aspire to do, and what kind of roles you're ready for now, and how you prepare for those is different for everyone. So someone might audition a lot for everything just to get the audition chops and develop your audition material and start to make relationships with people that you might meet, because it's sort of like putting money in the bank, you know. Even if you don't get a job, if you have done the work and you've brought your best self into the room, you never know who will remember that or think of you for something else.
Right.
So, you know, it could be it's staying current with, and I know this is very expensive to go to the theater, but if you can see as much theater or read the plays, the current plays, watch what's on TV. Now there's so much content. I'm sure we're all doing that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But really get a sense of where you fit in,
Mm-hmm.
and what you really want to do, why you want to be a storyteller, and try to find your best path there. I know that's
No, that's
yeah.
good. And she says she's grateful for any sort of information. And just even that, like breaking into the industry,
Mm,
that is if a little bit of for me sometimes, like we were talking about, creative people are creative, and the more that you're doing it, and I kind of say it's the quality of your experience.
mhm.
So even if you are getting, no, we're not able to do that, now, but just even reading plays with people in your living room and inviting them over to hear the play, that is,
Sure. Well, you can do that on Zoom now.
you do that on Zoom. So
Yeah.
just even getting, yes, getting people together and reading plays so that you are just nurturing your creative spirit and you're doing
Mhm.
it. And then
Mhm.
more people will kind of follow, but also that you have the responsibility for the quality of your experience. And so
Mhm.
the more that you're doing that, like, people, it's like, okay, now I think we're gonna, rent out a theater and do the play here at this, and maybe
Mhm.
so other people come, and this person's a writer and they want you to be in this play, and the more that you're just kind of meeting people in whatever way that you possibly can. But I'm also big on even just that, getting your friends together or your tribe together and to create. So finding your
Absolutely.
community,
Community. Yeah.
community, and
Mhm.
finding your community and creating from that community. People will go, and what do you want to say as an artist? Like, so
Right.
Christine, all your stuff has been, so healing, and you are just like a bearer of light with all of the projects that you are putting out there. That's why I said, what is your vision? I think of your vision as healing the world
Oh,
with your artistry. But sometimes that even like kind of breaking in, we think that there's going to be the magic show that
right.
or the magic TV thing that's going to
Right.
break
And
you
it's
into something,
yeah,
and you go,
no.
okay, so I have this big show, and oh, okay, okay.
Well, yeah, you hit on something very important, I think, because it is so much an ongoing process.
Process.
Your journey as an artist, and that hopefully never comes to a standstill. As long as you are staying inspired and active in your curiosity again, and your exploration of what fills you with joy and passion, and uh, what you want to say. Um, that's everything.
Right, right. Yes, I totally agree. And I have another question. Do you recommend any books or articles we could read to expand our minds um, overall in the industry? So there are tons of books out there.
Yeah.
Mm,
Do you mean
she says books or articles to expand our minds. I think everything we read expands our minds, but
right?
in the industry, I mean, I always love the artist's way too, which is
Mm,
really such a beautiful thing, just for you as an artist to do your morning pages and just
hmm.
take care of yourself as an artist. But that the beautiful drama bookstore, which is closed
Oh,
right
I know.
now.
Well, there are a lot of podcasts right now
Right, right.
that are illuminating and thought provoking. Uh,
You have some too, right? It's like you.
I do. I'm the host of the podcast for the Dramatists Guild called Talkback. It's on Broadway Podcast Network. But so Broadway Podcast Network has a lot of interesting things. You don't even have to listen to mine. Mine is talking to a lot of writers about diversity, equity, and inclusion, which I think is fantastic and interesting, but maybe not for everyone. And season 2 is coming out October 19th. But I mentioned podcasts because you can't get to the drama bookshop now, but you can listen to all kinds of things.
Right. And I think, yes, I think, we have also a book, An Actress Companion
Yes,
by Seth Barish. It was
that's
a
right.
really wonderful book to, help with that. Thank you, Carrie, for that. Here, I'm not even promoting my husband's book. Yeah, I think just also, I'm also inspired by, all the books that I read about, theater or people's
Mhm.
experiences, on directing or
Hmm.
autobiographies.
Autobiographies are, yeah.
Autobiographies are just like, yeah,
Hmm.
so wonderful. So yeah, anything that we can do to, um, I hope that's helpful. Was that helpful about, just some different books here? Yes. Okay. Um, yes. Great. Um, Good. Well, oh gosh. So we're about time. We're a little bit over here. I just want to thank you so much for being a part of this. And
Oh,
I
thank
just wanted
you.
to say to everyone, if you've liked what you've seen today, we have a lot of our artist conversations on our website at thebeargroup.org. And you can also go there to see, what kind of classes that we're offering. We have all kinds of different classes to keep nurturing your creative spirit. And I actually love these, the Zoom classes. I've been having a lot of fun with that kind of teaching acting on Zoom. So it's a different experience. It's a little bit more intimate, but wonderful. And Christine, any kind of parting thoughts that you might have for these, artists in the world that are out there doing their thing?
Oh, I just, well, first of all, I want to say thank you, Lee. Talking to you is always, it just fills me with such joy and gratitude and love. Just never give up, never give up, never give up. You
Right.
have, all that you need is within you. We have great opportunities to make make ourselves joyful
Right.
and better and better and better at what we do
Right.
and who we are as people.
Right.
So I just say go forth and
Create. Go forth and
create.
create.
Hmm.
Right. Yes. Go
Yeah,
forth and create with joy. Right. Go
yeah.
forth and create with joy. Um, Thank you. That
Thank
is
you.
fantastic. And thank you so much for everyone who has been with us this afternoon. We're so grateful that you came, and take care of yourselves and stay healthy and stay creative and stay positive. And we will see you next time. Okay.
Bye.
Okay. We'll see you later. Bye.
Okay.